Alrighty, here we are. I'm about to give you everything you need to know about the Amy Coney Barrett Supreme Court hearings in 10 minutes or less, sponsored by our friends over at Raycon. So, who is Amy Coney Barrett? First of all, she is 48 years old, which means that presumably she will serve on the Supreme Court for decades to come. She attended Notre Dame Law School, which is not one of the Ivy Leagues, so she would be, I think, the only justice on the Supreme Court who didn't go to an Ivy League school. She clerked for Justice Antonin Scalia. She was appointed by Chief Justice John Roberts in 2010 to serve on the Advisory Committee for the Federal Rules of Appellate Procedure. She's obviously quite brilliant. She was nominated for the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in 2017 by President Trump. During that nomination process, Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, suggested that her religious viewpoints would actually bias her legal viewpoints because, of course, she is a religious Catholic. Here was Senator Feinstein at the time suggesting that the doctrine lived loudly within Amy Coney Barrett.
When you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you.
Amy Coney Barrett sort of became a conservative star at that point. She was confirmed by the Senate, 55-43 for the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. 3 Democrats voted for her. She was considered for Justice Kavanaugh's seat, and of course, Justice Kavanaugh filled that one. Then she was chosen by President Trump to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's been married for over 20 years. She has 7 children, 2 of whom are adopted from Haiti. Her youngest biological child does have Down syndrome. She's a practicing Catholic, and she famously served as a women's leader in an ecumenical community called People of Praise, which drove the media up a wall because she was a handmaid, because the media have never met a Catholic and they have never read the New Testament, so they don't understand that a handmaid is not from the Margaret Atwood novel, but actually just a description of all humans from the New Testament. During the hearings, Amy Coney Barrett spotlighted the fact that she is deeply invested in her family and doesn't see her job as the be-all, end-all.
As I said when I was nominated to serve as a justice, I'm used to being in a group of 9, my family. Nothing is more important to me, and I'm very proud to have them behind me.
As you can see, she's quite poised and she's excellent on camera. What really makes Amy Coney Barrett appealing to conservatives and people who care about the Constitution is that she truly does understand the role of a court. Now, to understand the conflict here, you have to understand that for folks on the right, they typically understand the role of the court to be what the role of the court was at the founding. Namely, not a super legislature, not a group of people who get to insert their own morality into the Constitution of the United States. The role of the judiciary is instead to interpret the law as written. If you want to make a political change, you do that in the political branches, namely through the legislature or through the executive. But the unelected branch of government, the judiciary, is just there to ensure that the law as it is written is actually applied. That's what a judge is there to do. Amy Coney Barrett understands this extremely well. Folks on the left do not. They believe that courts are there to cram down their policy priorities. Courts are there to be just another tool in their arsenal. Courts are there to enshrine abortion, even though the Constitution says nothing about it. Courts are there to enshrine same-sex marriage in the Constitution, even though the Supreme Court has nothing to say on that issue in terms of the Constitution. Supreme Court is there to ensure that every policy priority beloved by Democrats is enshrined into law. The Constitution is merely a bit of poetry that you kind of use in order to cram down your particular point of view. Amy Coney Barrett disagrees with that general prescription when it comes to law. Here was Amy Coney Barrett saying, courts are not designed to do the quote-unquote moral thing. Courts are designed to interpret the law.
Courts are not designed to solve every problem or right every wrong in our public life. The policy decisions and value judgments of government must be made by the political branches, elected by and accountable to the people. The public should not expect courts to do so, and courts should not try.
This is obviously true. This was the founding structure. Alexander Hamilton famously wrote in Federalist 78 that the courts would be the least dangerous branch because they had neither force nor will, meaning that their job was not to will certain things into existence, and they didn't have the power to even effectuate their own decision-making. Amy Coney Barrett suggested that a judge imposing politics, as opposed to just interpreting the law, that would cut directly against democracy.
Part of the rationale for courts adhering to the rule of law and for judges taking great care to avoid imposing their policy preferences is that it's inconsistent with democracy. Nobody wants to live in accord with the law of Amy. I'm sure my children don't even want to do that.
Obviously, she is correct about this. So, what is her interpretive approach? Her approach is how you would read any law, namely that she says it is important to adhere to the text as written, not as I wish it were, but just as it is. I don't get to make up what the law is. Here she was explaining.
More than the style of his writing, though, it was the content of Justice Scalia's reasoning that shaped me. His judicial philosophy was straightforward. A judge must apply the law as it is written, not as she wishes it were.
That, of course, is exactly right. Originalism is just the basic philosophy that when you read a piece of text, it means what it says. You don't get to just interpret it randomly. Dan Rather, of course, you know, that newsman that we were all supposed to trust, he doesn't understand anything because he's an idiot. So instead, he suggested that being an originalist means rejecting pretty much everything. He says, if you want to be an originalist in law, maybe you should go all the way. Cooking on a hearth, leeches for medicine, an old mule for transportation. Or maybe you can recognize that the world changes. The world does change. The job of a judge is to make sure that the text that they are reading is applied to the principles of the modern world. That is the job of a judge. Nobody is suggesting that if you're an originalist, this means that you should be living without a toilet. That's ridiculous. The fact that this moron was ever trusted as a newsman, honestly, it's beyond reason. All right, stop the clock, because I have to talk about something different. These, the everyday E25 Raycon earbuds. Wow. These are my favorite wireless earbuds on the market. Now, I may have little in common with Cardi B, aside from the fact that we are both platinum, award-winning rap artists. But one thing we definitely have in common are these. We both use these Raycons. Raycon offers their wireless earbuds in a range of magical colors and patterns. They are super comfortable. They come with a variety of fit options. The compact carrying case can charge earbuds 4 times on a single charge. Unlike some of your other wireless options, Raycon earbuds, they're stylish and discreet, no dangling wires, no stems. They are great for video chats. One of the things that I love about Raycon is the fact that you can actually customize the fit to your ears, so they are not going to fall out of your ears like the one-size-fits-all version. They sound just as amazing as other top audio brands, and they're going to cost you about half the price. Raycons, they're great for working from home, working out, listening to music. Go check them out right now, and you will receive a special deal. They're everyday E25 earbuds, the best model yet, 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, a more compact design that gives you that nice noise-isolating fit. Click the link in the description below to get 15% off your order right now and get yourself a pair of these babies, these Raycons. Alrighty, let's get back into it. So, ACB, during the hearing, she avoided a lot of questions from Democrats about exactly how this would play out in terms of how she would rule. The reason being there's something called the Ginsburg rule. It was established, as the name suggests, during the Ruth Bader Ginsburg hearings, because it turns out Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a partisan Democrat. She worked for the ACLU, and Democrats, led by Joe Biden, said she doesn't have to answer any questions about how she's going to rule on cases. And everybody went, okay, and then they approved her 93-0. Well, ACB followed the Ginsburg rule to the letter. Here she was doing that.
I'm going to invoke Justice Kagan's description, which I think is perfectly put. When she was in her confirmation hearing, she said that she was not going to grade precedent or give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If I express a view on a precedent one way or another, whether I say I love it or I hate it, it signals to litigants that I might tilt one way or another in a pending case.
Okay, because Democrats were not able to bully or cudgel out of her all of the rulings that they wanted, instead, they just started asking her unbelievably stupid questions. So this was really the theme of the entire thing. They asked her many, many stupid questions. So, for example, Cory Booker just asked her straight out if she was a white supremacist, really to hit Trump, but because Cory Booker is a dummy.
I want to just ask you very simply, and I imagine you'll give me a very short, resolute answer, but you condemn white supremacy, correct?
Yes.
The look on her face says it all. The look on her face says it all. Mazie Hirono, the idiot senator from Hawaii, she asked if Amy Coney Barrett was a sexual predator.
Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No, Senator Hirono.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement related to this kind of conduct?
No, Senator.
One of the things that's so great about Amy Coney Barrett is she's able to keep a straight face no matter what idiocy is being thrown at her. Mazie Hirono finally came up with a brick to hit Amy Coney Barrett with. She claimed that because Amy Coney Barrett had used the phrase sexual preference, a phrase used by people ranging from Joe Biden to The Advocate magazine, this meant that actually Amy Coney Barrett hates gay people. Here was Mazie Hirono claiming offense over a completely non-offensive term, or a term that became offensive within the last 32 seconds.
Not once, but twice, you used the term sexual preference to describe those in the LGBTQ community. And let me make clear, sexual preference is an offensive and outdated term. It is used by anti-LGBTQ activists to suggest that sexual orientation is a choice.
It was a slur, a pathetic slur by Mazie Hirono, an idiot, against Amy Coney Barrett. Naturally, Webster's dictionary immediately redefined the term preference to suggest that it was offensive, because we now live in an Orwellian world. Bottom line is this, though. They could not stop Amy Coney Barrett. During the actual hearing, when they asked her any sort of legal question, she ran circles around them, leading to this viral moment in which John Cornyn of Texas asked her to show her notes.
Can you hold up what you've been referring to in answering our questions? Is there anything on it?
That letterhead that says United States Senate.
So, bottom line is, this thing moved through the Judiciary Committee on a straight party line vote. It will come to the Senate next week, and Amy Coney Barrett will be confirmed sometime next week and before the election. There you have it. The entire Amy Coney Barrett hearing in 10 minutes or less. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you here next time, and thanks to our sponsors over at Raycon. Facts don't care about your feelings, and it's a fact that The Ben Shapiro Show is the largest conservative podcast in the nation. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all of our content.